Good evening. The webinar will begin in a few minutes. Please take note of the housekeeping items that you see on your screen now before we get started in a few minutes here. All participants' videos and audio will be muted. Please be sure to name yourself for the scholarship drawing that will be at the conclusion of tonight's presentation. All right. Good evening. My name is Nick Boudre. I am the supervisor for career and college programs here at St. Clair County RESA and also representing Blue Water College Access Network, otherwise known as BWCAN. I'll be your host this evening for the Career Exploration panel, which is the final event of our four-part virtual series of the Fall Essentials webinar series this fall. Tonight, we have an amazing panel of 4 panelists from Michigan's highest in demand career fields. Each year, Michigan's Department of Labor publishes their Hot 50 Careers list illustrating the highest in demand, highest paying careers until 2028. As you will see, the list provides you not only with the career titles, but the expected job openings each year, the hourly pay range, and most importantly, the education and training needed to obtain employment in these fields. Tonight, our presenters work in some of the highest in-demand fields on this list. Our format this evening will be 30 to 40 minutes discussing the details of each of their careers, as well as the path they took to get where they're at today. After this time, we'll have a question and answer segment where the audience can ask questions via the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. Some suggestions for this evening's presentation as you listen to the panelists: you may be interested in one, or you may be interested in all their careers. Think about some questions for your panelists when it comes to your own career and college planning. All right, without further ado, let's get started with our first guest. Welcome, Ben Edwards. Ben is a project engineer and cost estimator at CA Hall, and Ben is also a graduate of St. Clair High School. Ben, how you doing this evening?
Good, Nick. How you doing today?
Good, good. Thanks for being on the panel again. How many is this for you?
I think this is my fourth one.
After this one, I'll have you start hosting them because you've been on more of them than I have. That's great.
Yeah, sounds good.
So Ben, after St. Clair High School, when did you become interested in pursuing engineering as a career?
So I became interested in high school, just going through math and science courses. So I went down to the University of Toledo, and because they had a good engineering program, and I didn't really know what kind of engineering I wanted to go into, but once I got down there, I picked my path pretty quick and kind of went from there.
Okay. So in your first couple of years at Toledo, your interest in engineering in high school, did you take some classes that allowed you to get some engineering underneath your belt and search out which area you'd like to specialize in?
Yep. So I always liked outdoors. I grew up in the UP until high school when I came down to St. Clair. So civil engineering always appealed to me. Once I got down to Toledo, they have a program called construction engineering. So it's more geared towards working for the state or for contractors that are actually constructing, buildings or bridges or roads or whatever. So I learned about that as soon as I got down there, and kind of switched to gears and started focusing on that. And part of that curriculum is your first year, you take kind of an intro to engineering, and then a couple of like the basic engineering courses that everybody has to take. But it's really, instead of taking a bunch of GEDs, they get your feet wet right away, and make sure that that's kind of the route you want to go. And I love those classes, and so I just kind of stuck with it.
Okay, very good. So not to rewind too much. So you said you were interested in engineering in high school. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Well, the classic thing is engineering is all math and science, right? And, I was really good at calculus and physics. So I'm like, well, I think that's the way I got to go. That's my only option, right? I got to be an engineer. But I think being good at math and science and finding something that I could do outdoors was kind of my main goal. And I found that in engineering through research before I went to college. And then once I got down there, it kind of just reaffirmed that, yeah, this is, the path I want to take.
That's good. So taking those classes and knowing those are going to help you in your future career, how did that help you in college, knowing that those were the areas that you needed to focus on?
Well, luckily, those were the subjects I liked. So it was easier. But, I took AP classes in high school, and that, kind of sealed the deal for me that I wanted to go to college and get a degree, and, I could do it. And then once I got down there, I got some credits because of those AP classes, and it just kind of put me ahead of, everybody else in my class, and kind of reaffirmed that, yes, I'm on the right path.
Oh, that's great. So now we're at the University of Toledo and you're pursuing your engineering degree. Was there any internships or anything along the way, working your way towards graduation?
Yeah, so I did multiple internships at Toledo, the engineering program. You have to do 3 before you can graduate. And so I did summer internships every year. I guess I was there, the summer after my freshman year all the way till I graduated. I did one in Toledo, worked for a deep foundation contractor. So that was, very eye-opening to be my first internship. And then I got my feet wet. And then I did another one for a mechanical contractor out in Portland, Oregon, which was really cool. I got to spend the summer out in Portland and live on the West Coast and see what that's all about. And then I did another one for another contractor in Toledo, and then I graduated and got a job.
That's great. And did those internships along the way help reassure that you are pursuing the career that you know you want to spend the rest of your life, working in?
Exactly, and it got me, my foot in the door to the industry, got me to meet a bunch of different people that later helped me get a job, and it got me, real life experience and kind of the knowledge that, the stuff I'm learning in school, it doesn't directly apply, but all the skills I'm learning while I'm here do apply to, my future career.
That's great. Now, Ben, you didn't stop with just your bachelor's, correct?
Right. I went to Toledo for my bachelor's, and then I also got my MBA at Toledo.
Okay. And how's that helping you now in your current position?
So my current position, I work for a bridge contractor. So I'm a project engineer, and all we do is bridges. We do a lot of large interstate jobs all over the state of Michigan. So it helps because on the contracting side of construction, it's, you have to have the technical skills to be able to build what, you're constructing, but you also have to have the business skills to run a business. Because I'm on a project site and I'm working with a superintendent, and his job is to run the labor and, figure out the equipment, make sure everything's running smoothly. My job is to track, the work, how it's progressing, track the schedule, make sure we're getting paid, make sure we're paying our subcontractors. So it's a lot more of the business side. And so getting that MBA really gave me a full breadth of the understanding of how a business runs and how it's supposed to run. And it, definitely helped a lot.
Yeah. That's great. And I'm glad that you're sharing that, Ben. I think there's a lot of students and, even for myself as an adult, I really don't see that side of, civil engineering or engineering as a whole. So thank you for sharing that, how, you can pursue a master's that's going to even, push your career forward, even though it's not specifically for engineering.
Right. And, with careers, it's just like investing. It's all about differentiation. How can you differentiate yourself against, compared to other people in your industry? And that's how you get ahead. So it's really rare to have a bachelor's in engineering or engineering degree at all, coupled with a business minor and a master's in business.
Well, that's great.
That was my.
And I did forget to mention that. So you had a minor in business administration in your undergrad?
Right.
Okay, very good. Well, that's some great planning on your part. So let's talk a little bit about what the day-to-day looks like now in your job. Well, what's a traditional day? I'm sure it's changing as it goes on.
Yeah. So a normal day for me is usually I'm on a construction site somewhere in the state of Michigan. So I live in Livonia, and our headquarters for our business is in Walled Lake, like Novi area.
Okay.
So really close to headquarters, but currently I'm on a large interstate or interchange project up in Saginaw, Michigan. So I'm driving an hour and a half a day or one way to get up there. So I'll leave in the morning, get up there, meet with our crews that are doing the work, and then, they go out and do their thing. And then my job is to, track what they do. And then, like I said, pay the bills, make sure we're getting paid, track our schedule, work with the state. We work for the state of Michigan and all kinds of different counties all over the state. So the project plan right now is for MDOT. It's a $62 million 2-year interchange reconstruct on I-75. So working with the state, making sure that what we're doing is correct, making sure they're happy. They're our customer. Everybody on this call is technically my customer as taxpayers. But the state is a direct owner, so have to keep them happy. And then working with our subcontractors, on that job, we have 17 different subcontractors that come onto the project site at different times to perform different types of work. We don't self-perform all of that. So, working with them, scheduling them, making sure what they're doing is correct and making sure they're keeping the state happy and then making sure they get paid. And then I drive home.
I'll keep that in mind next time I'm traveling up north, and hopefully the construction's on time.
Yeah, right.
Well, before we wrap things up here, we'll come back to you too, Ben, for the question and answer period. But I always like to ask you, what is the best advice you would give a high school student that's in the audience this evening that's considering pursuing a degree in engineering and ultimately a career?
Well, first and foremost, engineering is all about, being very studious. So to get into a good program, you need to have good grades. So that starts in high school. I can't stress that enough. And then once you, pick a concentration, don't be afraid to jump ship and try something different. I have a lot of friends that I went to school with that, they started in one direction and then they took a course in, like a general engineering course, and they realized that they liked something else, that they can go completely change their degree. But as long as you start catch that early and make that decision, it doesn't hurt you too much. But I think that is like the biggest thing is I've seen so many people go through a program and they get out on the other side and they don't like what they ended up with, just because they were scared to make a change early. Don't be afraid to make a change.
Very good. Sorry, Sarah, on my screen, Ben. Well, Ben, we'll come back to you here in a little bit once we get through the rest of the panelists. Just a special note, too, that engineering represents 4 out of the 50 careers on that Hot 50 list, including cost estimators, Ben. So it looks like you chose a good path.
Yeah, I think I did too.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Next up, we have Nicole Flynn. Nicole, let me get your spotlight there. How you doing this evening?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. Nicole is a Spanish teacher at St. Clair Middle School. I'm going to do a little bragging. Nicole was awarded the St. Clair County Distinguished Teacher Award last year for efforts in the classroom. So we're so excited to have you back joining us and talking about the career in education, Nicole. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for asking me.
So your career started in education. How did you become interested in wanting to be a teacher?
Just like Ben just mentioned, I was almost through college. I was in my last year of school, and I was in a program that after my summer internship, I realized I didn't love. So that weekend before I started back my senior year, I told my parents that I didn't want to become an architect anymore. I wanted to be a teacher. And my mom is a teacher, so I had spent a lot of time in her classroom, like on breaks, helping her out when I was home. And so I started taking education classes. I went in and talked to my counselor and figured out how many extra years I was going to get to be in college, and switched paths and went into education.
So you went to the Michigan State University, correct?
I did. I went to Michigan State. I have a major in family and consumer science and a minor in agri-science for my undergrad. And then for my master's, I went to Ferris State, and I have a master's in education with an emphasis in philanthropic education.
Okay.
And my Spanish is from Wayne State. I guess I didn't mention that.
Finished at Wayne State. So have you always taught Spanish, or is there any other classes that you know?
I've taught, when I first got hired, I started teaching what was called life skills, which was kind of like a modernized home ec. And then after my first couple of years in the classroom, they're like, we're going to get rid of this program. You need to get something else. What have you considered? And that's when I went back and got a Spanish degree while I was teaching. And so I've taught Spanish. I've also taught health. And this year I'm teaching a positivity class based on the Positivity Project. St. Clair Middle is one of 5 schools in the country that's piloting a program, like a classroom program for it.
Well, you actually jumped a little ahead to one of the questions I was going to ask.
Oh,
We're gonna stay on that because I was very fortunate I believe it was last fall, to visit you in your classroom and see the Positivity Project taking place. So talk to the audience a little bit, because I think sometimes education can be a very basic career when people are looking from the outside. But there's a lot of programs and a lot of great things that are happening. One of them is this project that's going on at St. Clair Middle School. So talk to us a little bit about that.
so the Positivity Project is a program that the entire school uses. We spend 15 minutes to 20 minutes a day focusing on different character strengths that are universal to all cultures, all countries. Things like trustworthiness, being hardworking, kindness, bravery. And we lead the students through a series of discussions. We watch videos, and that's kind of like our entire school focus, embracing these different character strengths, realizing that they are in everybody, and some people are just better at some of them than others. This year, I am very fortunate. I am teaching an entire class that's focused on the Positivity Project. So, for example, my class just made a video for the State of Michigan School Board Association, explaining the Positivity Project and why it's important for students to actively discuss the things that unite us, the character strengths and the human experience.
Wow, that's so great. And I know, Nicole, you have such a great passion for education.
I
And
do.
uh, and one of the things is, as I remember going through my undergrad and even in high school when I knew that I was going to be a teacher, was trying to decide, what I wanted to teach, what I wanted to major in and minor in, but also what area, whether it be elementary, middle school, or high school. So for some of the students in high school right now to understand that it's elementary education or secondary education, so to speak, is the technical term. What's it like being in a middle school teacher and having those age levels that you see every day?
Well, I think that middle school is the best age to teach. It is my favorite. I have a secondary certification, which means that I could teach grades 6 through 12. But I have taught almost my entire career in 7th or 8th grade. My day is I start and greet the kids, and then we go through our lessons. It's a different age because there's still so much enthusiasm. They haven't become stressed out like you see students in high school, but they have more responsibility than an elementary student. It's a unique period in childhood.
That's great. So what's the best part of your job being a teacher?
The students. I love interacting with them. I love hearing about more than like, did they understand the lesson, but just their growth as a person, watching them develop responsibility, see them branching out and building friendships, getting to be a small part of their life for a year is an amazing experience. And to just know more people and understand more people. I don't think that we could overvalue the worth of children in our society, and it's an amazing opportunity to be an educator.
That's great. And it's not always easy. And I'm sure over the 16, 17 years in education, you've seen some challenges, especially over the last year or so. Just not so much focusing on the last year, but what are some challenges that you see as a teacher, as an educator working with your students?
As an educator today, you have to have a very clear vision of why you're in education, because people from the outside will try and convince you of what they think your job is and the value of your job. And so to be a strong educator, you have to have a clear vision of why you're in the classroom, why it's important to be an integral part of children's lives. And you have to see that as a really amazing opportunity. Otherwise, the outside noise will be overwhelming.
That's great. Leading to my next question here, but I'm sure, I remember speaking with you last year's event. What's some advice you would have for high school students right now pursuing education as a degree?
I would say if you're interested in education, while you're still in high school, see if one of your former teachers would let you come back and volunteer in the classroom, spend some time in the classroom. Think about what it is that really fills you up as a person. Part of being a teacher is interacting with people all the time. Does that fulfill you? If that does, finding ways to begin working with kids. A lot of times people feel like they remember their experience as a student and they assume that they understand what the role of the teacher must have been. And so having an outside opportunity to see, not be the student in a traditional sense, but to observe the teacher, to help them, will give you a taste of what it's like and to see if that's what you like. Ultimately, pick something that makes you happy so that every day you are excited to wake up and contribute.
Thank you so much, Nicole. We're going to come back to you here shortly, but before I let you go, I'm going to keep referring back to this Hot 50 list, and I think it's really important that we had the panelists that we do have this evening. And education is a need right now in the state of Michigan, and actually there's 5 different jobs or careers that are on this list of 50. And their annual job openings, if you told them together, it's over 8,000 jobs per year for the next 6 years in the state of Michigan. And so to echo Nicole's, the point that she made is if you're interested in education, there are opportunities to pursue your passions. All right, thanks a lot, Nicole. We'll come back to you at the Q&A session. Next up, we have Stephen Tenniswood. Stephen may have the best background I've ever seen in the history of webinars. Stephen, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing really good, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Stephen is the network systems engineer here at St. Clair County RESA and has over 30 years in information technology field. Also a graduate of Port Huron Northern High School. So Stephen, how did your life lead you to pursue a career in information technology years ago?
I sort of took a circuitous route getting into my current position because I didn't start out as a computer network engineer or even wanting to be in computers. My first couple years in college, I studied programming, Fortran, COBOL, a lot of those languages that are still around today, but I decided that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I got involved in production scheduling. I worked for a few years at Masco as a master production scheduler, and I always seemed to gravitate to the computers and using computers to do my job. Which led to a career change later on, and I started to work for West Marine Products, and which is the boating stores all over the United States. And I had an opportunity to be a project manager for what was called a Win Back Office rollout. That's the computers, the registers in the stores that you see when you're checking out. And that really got me thinking about moving back into computers. So I was a district manager for West Marine Products, and one day I'm driving home in a snowstorm, and it just hit me that, I need to do something different. And when I got home, my wife, who's a lifelong educator in St. Clair County, happened to have a job posting for a technician position in East China School District, where Nicole and I worked together for many years. And so I took the job, and it grew over time. I became their network engineer, and then eventually I was recruited and brought up to RESA. I'm now the senior network engineer for St. Clair County RESA. So that's how I got here.
Very good. And what is a day-to-day in the life of a networks engineer look like, not only at St. Clair RISA, but, in any other industry or maybe for organization or business?
It changes by the minute. You never know what you're gonna do. This morning, I have a large project, a large Wi-Fi project that we're working on rolling out across St. Clair County. That was my project for today. I didn't get to work on it because I support many other roles in the IT department. I support the technicians and the programmers and the database folk. So it's ever changing. I never know what I'm going to end up doing for that day.
And Stephen, when we had you on the information technology panel last winter, there was some great information that you put out for the students and their families, and you just hit a little bit as how technology is ever changing. And there's certain skills that you need to have as a professional in this field. What advice would you give students as, even at the age that they're at now, or as they go through their undergrad or through their careers, that they need to focus on to be a successful professional in this field?
A couple that popped into mind immediately are research and communication. I spend a significant amount of my day researching the solution to problems or researching the solution to a project. Being able to effectively use Google and all of the online resources that are available to you. The other one is communication. Being able to read and write effective communications and convey your ideas across in a written form is really important. Then also in a verbal form is very, very important.
And, at any age, whether it's in middle school, high school, or maybe even before then, are there specific languages when it comes to technology or programming that students can start off at the basic level and start getting their feet wet?
Oh my gosh, code.org. There are many online coding sites that you can get involved in. And it's not so much, my personal opinion, it's not so much about the language. I can program in a multitude of different languages. Right now, my popular one, or the one I use the most, is called Powershell. It's a conglomeration of C++, C#, a little Java thrown in there. It's a cool language, and it's up and coming, and it's used more for management, server management, switch management, that kind of thing. But get involved in coding. Do code.org, go take a Java course online. The concepts work across all the different languages. It's the planning, the pre-planning, the pseudocoding, flowcharting, writing your first few lines of code and debugging. All of those skills translate from language to language to language.
So great. And you talked a lot about connectivity and the technology. In our current times right now, as we see right now, we would be together all, in a room, but we're online. How important is connectivity and technology? It was an advancing thing in our lives, but now it's more important than ever. How has that caused, good stress in your career and your profession currently?
Wow, I'm going to call it the connectivity divide. There are pockets of connectivity where you don't have to worry about it. Here in Marysville, where I live, we have Comcast, AT&T, Frontier. We have a lot of selections of great internet providers. When you get out in the country and further away from your suburbs and stuff, you don't have that option anymore. So in St. Clair County, when you're up near Yale and KPAC, Memphis, they don't have the connectivity options that we have, and that's limiting. One of the things I like about my job is I'm tasked right now to figure out how to narrow that divide and get connectivity out into those areas that need it. That's my Wi-Fi project that I was supposed to be working on today.
Very cool. Is there any other projects that stick out in your mind? Some fun things you like working on? Other projects that may pique students' interest?
I love doing websites. I love playing with websites. It's a great creative outlet. You know, you can try something, put it up online, see what it looks like. If you don't like it, okay, you can start over and do something different. You can experiment. Some of my favorite projects are implementing new technology that supports our teachers. Probably one of my favorite projects in my career was in East China doing our smart suites and putting smart boards and projectors and sound systems in the hands of our teachers in the classrooms, and then doing the training and the support and being able to model with those teachers to show them how to use all that technology, and then sitting back and watching the teachers use the technology, and that feeling you get with like, hey, I was partially responsible for getting that in front of the kids. It's really, really exciting. And now with COVID and our pandemic and students taking classes on 100% online, doing, one day off, one day on, all that kind of fun stuff, technology is becoming even more important. Connectivity is being more and more important because of Zoom and Google Meet and being able to connect to your teachers.
And speaking of the students, if you have students in the audience right now that are interested in IT, whether it's a specific area to specialize in, or really just want to pursue the career as a whole, what would be the best advice, or maybe even more than just one piece of advice that you would give students to pursue this career?
Find an opportunity to come and shadow somebody. Find an opportunity to be an intern. Call Nick. Nick will get you in touch with me. You can come out, hang out with me for a day. Learn, you want to get your feet wet and learn what the different facets of being in the IT industry is all about. I'm a network engineer, focuses on connectivity, but there's also desktop engineers, there's Microsoft engineers, there's security engineers. Security in the IT arena is huge right now. There's a gigantic demand for network professionals focused on security. But find an opportunity to get involved. Take on some online courses. There's tons of free IT related online courses out there to learn the basics, and then come and hang out with me for a day.
And absolutely, you can get a hold of me and I'll get you in touch with Stephen. That's great. That is great feedback. Much like what Ben said, and Nicole, find your passion, find a way to search out your passion, make sure it is, talk to people, expose yourself to the career, and then, find that that's what you like to do. Before we let you go here, Stephen, anything else that you want to leave the audience with about the information technology field?
It's awesome. It's ever changing. It's never boring. You're going to learn something new every single day. I've been doing this for 30 years, and there's not a day that's gone by where I haven't learned something new and I haven't been able to help somebody improve their day.
Thank you so much, Stephen. And once again, there's 3 information technology careers on the Hot 50 list with very high annual openings. So Stephen, we'll come back to you once again once we get our question and answer period. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Move here to our final of our 4 presenters this evening. Next up is Madison Belko. Maddie, how are you doing tonight? Oh, let me see, make sure I can get your audio here. Let me see here. Just make sure we're good to go. Can you hear me, Maddie? I can't hear you. That's okay. Let me try something here. I'm gonna mute you and then unmute you again. I cannot. Yeah, let's take those out. And I know that may.
Can you hear me now?
I can. There we go.
Gosh. Took me
Steven,
forever to figure this out.
that's okay. I know sometimes those headphones screw up with that, but Steven, just saying, was that, that was some pretty good IT skills of me troubleshooting, wasn't it? I see a head nod. So Maddie.
Yep, that was awesome. Thank you. Even though Madison could have called the help desk and we would have helped her out.
And Madison, you're not the first that's done this on these meetings. So Maddie is a registered nurse at Carmano's Cancer Institute and also a grad of Marysville High School. She was on our health careers panel last winter. Thank you for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes. So Maddie, what led you to pursue a career in health care, more specifically to be a nurse?
So I got interested in healthcare actually when I was little. My sister was in the hospital for a while, and so we got very familiar with DMC Children's, and all I remember really is how amazing the nurses were and how they impacted my family and I's life. And really from then on, I was interested in healthcare, and then I talked to a few nurses that were family friends and things, and they ended up convincing me to take a step and go into nursing, and so that's how that happened.
Very good. So you're interested in nursing in high school. Where did you go after you graduated from Marysville High School?
So I did my undergrad at SC4. I took all my gen ed classes there. I didn't pay for anything because all of my academic scholarship, and I played basketball there, so they paid for everything. So I got 2 years of free college towards that degree.
Okay, so when you were at SC4 and you did your general education courses, was there any courses that you were taking that were helping prepare you for the next 2 years in terms of nursing?
Yes, I took a lot of science and a lot of chemistry, things like that, and which I enjoyed because I loved that in high school. So mainly I took all science and health classes, and then to get like the social studies and all that stuff out of the way too, that I hate.
Okay. Very good. And so talk to me a little bit, we're going to go into when you went to Rochester, but you're at SC4 and you're looking, you're going to go into nursing and you want to pursue your bachelor's degree. What's that like transferring from a community college to a four-year university? Because a lot of students in St. Clair County do that because we're very fortunate to have SC4 here in our community.
Yeah, I think that, well, my transition was a little easier because I also played basketball at Rochester. So that helped me get into classes and meet people and have all that experience. But SC4 really prepared me for Rochester. I felt like I was just as ahead as anyone who was transferring maybe from OU to Rochester and things like that. So I really thought that it helped and the transition wasn't too scary.
Okay. So when you got to Rochester College, actually right now, isn't it called Rochester University?
It is, yes.
It is.
We're moving up in the world.
I had to get used to saying that.
Yeah.
What was it like in those 2 years in your nursing program?
I was there 3 years because the nursing program there is 3 years, unless you do an advanced 2 year. But the classes were small and I graduated with 18 kids. So we were very personable with our teachers and all the staff there. And overall, we were really close. So the learning experience was really great.
Okay. Now, was there any internships, clinicals that you had to do along the way?
Yes, we had clinical every semester. I actually had clinical at Carmanos Cancer Institute where I worked, I think my second year of nursing, and I ended up getting a student nurse internship job there and worked there my junior and senior year at Rochester. And so that helped a lot. I learned a lot there, and it actually helped me get a job exactly where I wanted to, which is in the ICU right now.
And that was going to lead me to my next question. So there's different areas that in the nursing field that you can go in and work, correct?
Yeah.
So how did you end up in the ICU? And then my second question is going to be, was there anything in your clinicals that you were like, this is definitely not what I want to do?
Yeah, so when I went originally wanted to be a nurse, I for sure knew I was going to be a pediatric nurse. There was no doubt. I babysat all my life. I loved kids. And then I had the pediatric clinical, and it was the worst experience of my life. So I was heartbroken, but I just knew that it wasn't for me like I always thought it was. And so that's another great thing about clinicals is that you get to try each different career path in nursing. And so I had that clinical, and then I ended up, and so then we had a clinical at the Cancer Institute, and my manager of the side that I worked on, which was like a medical floor of just like gynecology patients, he actually took over the ICU and was the manager there, and he offered me a position in the ICU right after I graduated, which you usually don't get because you need experience before you can get into the ICU. So I was nervous, and I told him that I probably wasn't going to be a good fit, but I would try it. And then I ended up loving it, and so I was very thankful for that.
That's good. So what does a day in the life look like for a RN in the ICU?
So it varies, but I work 12-hour shifts. I work 3 of them a week, whatever days I choose. We go in and we get report. In the ICU, you only get 2 patients, so that's another thing I really love about it is because you get to focus on just those 2 patients all day. But there is a reason. They're usually on a lot of drips, or they're ventilated, or they have a very extensive care. So we usually, and I talk with doctors. I really like the hospital that I'm at because we're really close with the ICU doctors, and we have a very personal relationship. So if I think that something is wrong with my patient, or that I feel like something needs to be done, you talk to them and we'll get it figured out. And we usually pass meds. It's pretty hectic, but it's a good hectic. It keeps you on your feet. I probably don't sit down once, but that's good because I have a lot of energy, so it wears me out by the end of the day.
That's good. And, we alluded to it a little bit with Stephen, and how much has COVID changed your career as a nurse?
Yeah, that was rough, especially because it was my first year out of nursing school. Nothing ever comes easy, that's for sure. But yeah, it was different. Everything changed. We were on full lockdown. Our patients are cancer patients, so if they got COVID, it was not good usually. And the hardest part was that we didn't allow any visitors in the hospital. So we were often the last person to hold their hand if a patient was passing away, or we used FaceTime to try to connect family members and let them grieve the last time that their family member would still be there. We had to wear the same protective equipment all the time, which was horrible because usually if our patients are in isolation, we just throw our stuff away after we're done using it. But it was so crazy that we had to keep reusing stuff, and mentally and emotionally, it was very exhausting. But honestly, my unit, we're very close, and so we just kept an eye on each other, kept checking in with each other. We had a lot of support groups. My hospital put out support groups and like pulled us aside and asked us if we needed extra help or anything like that. So that was really nice.
That's so inspiring, Maddie. And what advice would you give a high school student right now that's interested in not only health careers, but also becoming an RN?
So my best advice would be to just go out and talk. You can talk to me if you know family members or friends, talk to a nurse, get to know about what they do. And then my other advice would be to, like everyone else said, get an internship or even volunteer at the hospital. They're always needing volunteers and extra help. And so you can get yourself kind of used to that environment or a clinic or whatever you think that you want to go. It's a great career. You don't have to stay. I can do this for a while, but then I can go travel or I can go back to school and become a nurse practitioner. So you really, it's endless, and you can make it your own path.
The last question I'm going to ask just before we move to the next segment here. What's the best part of your job?
The best part of my job is definitely just being able to talk with my patients and building that relationship with their family members. With the ICU and with oncology specifically, we get a lot of the same families and patients. And so we build a relationship with them, and it's really cool to see them get out of the ICU and progress forward, or have them come back and visit us, and they always let us know how much we meant to them. And so that means a lot to me, just to have an impact on people that you've never thought you would ever meet in your life. And it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you so much, Maddie. We're going to move now to our question and answer period. And so we'll come back to you with some questions. So once again, to the audience, if you have a question for any of the panelists specifically, feel free to go down to the chat. If you hover the cursor, it'll have a little chat with a little cloud in the middle of your screen. Just type in there. You can send it to everybody. You can send it to me privately. And just your question, if it's for Ben or it's for Maddie, you can go ahead and type Ben and then have a specific question. So I'm going to give you a little time to chat right there. My partner, Rachel Verche, is with me, and she's going to monitor the chat. But each event that we've had this fall, we've actually had students email throughout the week questions that they may have for the panelists. So the first one actually that was emailed to me, and it's going to be for you, Stephen, so I'm going to unmute you and then spotlight you once again, is from a student that's on their school's robotics team, and they're still kind of undecided. You know, they really enjoy being part of the team, and they're still undecided if they not only want to pursue information technology as a career, but where they're going to go with that. So I know you're heavily involved in robotics, Stephen. What advice would you give that student?
Stay on the robotics team. Go Team 5843 Flurb. What advice would I would say get involved. Find somebody who's in the field now, get connected with them, and then come and follow them for the day. Spend some time with them, learn what they do, and get to experience what IT is. Like I said earlier, you can contact Nick, and Nick will get you in touch with me, and you can come spend a couple hours with me, and I'll teach you the ropes. I'll give you a tour and let you talk to the different roles that I have access to, and you can figure out what direction you'd want to go. All
right. Thank you, Stephen. The next one I had to get here now. It's for Madison again. Now, Maddie, I'm going to unmute you. All right. It says, well, actually, this is pertaining to what you alluded to with your first answer was, who did you talk to throughout high school that helped you be in health careers, or do you use now as a mentor for your career, maybe where you'd like to go with your RN degree?
Yeah, actually, I talked to my nurse or primary nurse practitioner that I went to throughout high school. So actually, she was the one that I was gonna go into thinking about physician's assistant, and then she was the one that convinced me to go to becoming a nurse actually. So, and then my mom reached out on Facebook to her friends. And or friends of friends who were nurses, and so I just got in contact that way, even though I've never met them. I just kind of reached out to them and had questions.
Now, are you still in contact now with people in your field, or maybe somebody that you want to pursue? I know we've talked before, you were considering the practitioner role.
Yes. So my mom's friend, she was on the career panel last year actually. So she's a nurse practitioner and got her degree, and I've been talking to her, but mostly now I just get in my contact with coworkers. So my coworkers some of them are pursuing nurse practitioner right now too. So, and they were the ones that I actually became friends with when I was a student nurse. So I've known them for a while now, and they helped me kind of decide where I might want to go in the future.
Very good. Now, Maddie, I'm going to go back to this is a question that I actually had that wasn't off my notes. So you talked about playing basketball. There's a lot of students in high school that consider doing something extracurricular wise, whether it's athletics or clubs or some type of organization when they're in college. How did you handle your studies, when you're in college and in the nursing program, which is pretty intense, and play a sport at the same time?
Yeah, it was challenging, well worth it, but I just really got a hang of time management, and I was very organized, so I made sure that I was also communicating. You have to have open communication with your teachers and coaches or whatever extracurricular activity you choose to be in. But I would do homework on the bus. I scheduled final exams in a hotel lobby when we were traveling for nationals. I did it all, so it is possible. So there's no excuses.
All right. Thanks, Maddie. Rachel, I think we got a question coming through.
I don't see one on my end. Maybe it's a private one to you.
Oh yeah, it was sent to me. Sorry about that. This one is actually going to be for Ben. So Ben, it says, what kind of adversity did you encounter your first year at Toledo, and what would be your best advice? So going to, technically an out-of-state university, what challenges did you see when you went there, and what would your best advice be for a student going to Toledo?
Well, all of the Ohio State fans, that was the biggest one. That was rough. And now all my friends are Ohio State fans because that's all everybody went to school with. But no, other than that, it was for me, it was the normal stuff. I went to a school where nobody else from my high school went to, so it was the new kid in the area. But luckily, there was all the freshmen with me. But it was the getting to know a new town, new places to eat, new places to go hang out. That was my biggest challenge. But I think it took me about 2 or 3 months to really find my way around, and then I settled in. And I think that's pretty common for anywhere you go to school is, unless you're going somewhere that's near home and you're living at home, it's going to be a little learning curve.
That's very good. And you were involved with some teams as well when you were in college, correct?
Yeah. So when I went to Toledo, I met a girl at freshman orientation that was a cheerleader, and she convinced me to become a cheerleader. So I joined the cheer team, which was not something I'd never thought even considered or thought was possible. But I did it for 3.5 years, and I met awesome people, lifelong friends. I also met my wife. She was a cheerleader with me. We just got married this summer. So it's a cool story. But yeah, being part of the team definitely helped me adjust. There's a lot of people that were from the Toledo area on the team. So that definitely helped speed up the getting to know the area process.
That's good. And so much like I asked Maddie, how did you handle that? Because obviously the travel and the commitment being on a team, and then engineering programs are very intensive as well. How did you handle your studies and your commitments with those teams?
Just like what Maddie said, it's time management, learning what your limits are, and just staying organized, being knowing when deadlines are. I kept a just schedule on my phone, and I put due dates for every day, so I knew when things were coming up, what needed to happen. You go to school and you get involved with something, which is I think the biggest the most important thing you can do when you get there is immerse yourself in the community and get involved with something. It helps you feel invested, and you get to know people faster. But with that, you need to have good time management and know your limits and stay organized.
That's good. Thanks a lot, Ben. All right, I did have one more question come through here, and it's for you, Nicole. So let me highlight your video once more. The question was, in terms of deciding what subjects to major and minor in, what advice would you give student pursuing a career in education? So your major did change, but then you decided on certain majors. What advice and how would a student feel through what they like to teach?
I think that picking something that you have a passion for, I went for family and consumer science because it's focused on people and communication and relationships and practical skills. And in my mind, that seemed like something that was very logical, and I would have an easy time convincing other people of its value in the classroom. But I think that if you're passionate about math or science or computers, you can also teach that. And so that's a cool way to look at it, is that if you have a passion for people and for a specific area, you can partner those together. So.
Very good. All right. Thank you so much, Nicole. So this is the part of the evening where we've given you a lot of information, some great presentations by all four of our panelists. So now where do you go from here? So what I'm going to do is share my screen, and this is where we're going to provide you with the next steps that you can start doing after this evening. So for starters, tomorrow we'll be sending you a link with the recording of tonight's event, as well as resources we're about to discuss. As part of the Fall Central series, BW can publish grade-specific checklists that you're seeing on your screen now. So whether you're 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, these will provide you with the items that you should be completing this fall to stay on track with your career and college planning. This is the final of the 4-part webinar series. We had the college applications September. We had the free application for federal student aid, otherwise known as FAFSA, and at the end of September. We had scholarships and paying for college in October, and then this evening was wrapping up the fall series. Stay tuned. We'll be announcing the Winter Essentials series in the upcoming weeks. All this information can be found on the new BWCAN website that really acts as a one-stop shop for all your career and college planning needs. The website can be found at bwcan.org. That is bwcan.org. We also publish a monthly newsletter that provides subscribers with updated information and resources from St. Clair County RESA, Blue Water College Access Network, and our community and state partners. Last but not least, any of your conversations and plannings can be greatly supported by scheduling a meeting with your high school counselors or the college advisors. St. Clair County is extremely fortunate to have a strong network of counselors, as well as the 5 college advisors that you see right now. And these are their specific high schools where they're serving this year. All right. Well, without further ado, we're going to move to our scholarship drawing segment of the evening. One lucky 11th to 12th grade student from St. Clair County is going to win a $500 scholarship that is sponsored by our amazing partners at the Community Foundation of St. Clair County. This is not only help support your education, but also as a positive reward for you being here this evening. So without further ado, get the handy jar out here and move around the tickets. See who the lucky winner is going to be this evening. All right. Sam Rigsby from Port Huron High, 12th grade. Congratulations, Samuel. We'll be getting in contact with you and mailing you the paperwork for your scholarship. So once again, I'd like to thank everybody for attending tonight's webinar. A special thank you to all of our presenters. Please take a look out for the Winter Essential Series that's going to be announced in the next few weeks. And have a great evening. I'm Nick Bouger from St. Clair County RESA.
Bye, everybody.
See you, Stephen. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye, Ben. Bye, Nicole.
Bye, Nick.
Thanks again, Maddie.
Yep, no problem.
Good night.